Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle Griffiths with Guided Intelligence Productions. I want to welcome you to Awoken. Awoken is the real life story of Malcolm Nair. Malcolm died and came back. He decided when he came back that he needed to change his life. And in that process of changing his life, he learned the secrets to manifesting the type of life that he wanted to live. So let's all enjoy the story of being. Welcome, everybody, to the brand new series, Awoken. Our first guest, or our first episode, is going to be with Malcolm Nair as he discusses his NDE. So, Malcolm, let me go ahead and start it off by saying welcome, and I'm grateful that you're with us. I would like you to start with your story about what was the actual cause of your near death experience.
Thank you very much, Kyle, for having me on the show. In 2010, what caused the accident was drinking and driving. I was drinking and driving back in 2010 after partying and hanging out all night, not knowing what I wanted to do, just kind of hanging out at one house and then deciding to go to someone else's house. And in the midst of leaving the first house I was partying at, um, I made a bad decision to get in my car and start driving to someone else's house. I was warned, not to, and I felt I was okay because nothing had kicked in at the time. So while I was driving, within the first 10 to 20 minutes, it started to kick in. And when it started to kick in, I started to see kind of things around me warping and lights flashing before my eyes and everywhere I was driving. So at that point, I was confused, if my foot was heavy on the gas or, if I'm just tripping out or what's going on. Am I really going that fast? And when I started to recognize those lights and, that I was going fast, it struck me that I was just I was just flying. I was just driving so fast, to be honest with you. And I kept going. And the more I kept going, the more I started to get confused where this person lived, where am I going, what's gonna happen, what am I doing? Usually, I knew what I was gonna do, maybe change directions, go home, but by the time I was contemplating that, I had sideswiped two vehicles and I banged my head, and that must have caused me to kind of black out for an instant. And I woke up not pressing on the gas, but pressing even harder on the gas. Sorry, did I say gas twice?
It's okay. Yeah, keep going.
So I didn't press on the brakes, I pressed hard on the gas, and I ended up going onto someone's property and going over their grass and hitting the corner of their house at 100 kilometers an hour. And the reason why I know that is because the police came, they do an investigation and evaluation, and so they could write their report and call you out on the news. And so they indicated that it was 100 kilometers an hour the last time they checked on the speedometer on the computer. And that's what they said. And, it was hard enough for me to get ejected immediately out of the vehicle head first. And that's what happened. That's basically what happened.
So when you got it injected out of the car head first, were you aware that you were being ejected out of the car? Or is that just
It
something that they
happened.
told you?
No, it happened instantly. I
You
felt
did?
it.
You felt it. You
Yeah, so
felt it.
I felt it, and some people, it's interesting. I must have, I must have, it was such a fast thing that happened that I didn't feel any pain. Um, so I hit the car, or the house so hard that my knee, I kind of flew up, and I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And they said that it's good that I wasn't wearing a seatbelt because I would have stayed and I would have been crushed. The seats would have moved forward, and the hood would have pushed in, and I would have been crushed. So it's good that I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and I kind of came up over my steering wheel, and my knee hit the steering wheel, and that's how my tibia here broke.
Mm.
And I came out of the vehicle, and what I know was within a couple minutes, or not a couple minutes, within 10 to 15 minutes, I was still aware. I was still consciously aware, and I can hear how impactful that was on the house. That's where my awareness went. I said,
Mm.
I felt, who could have been in that house? Who did I just wake up? Like I
Wow.
think I was still drunk because I was focused on, is the family or someone gonna come out? What's going on? And I started to feel and hear the lights. I don't know if my body was awake, my eyes were open looking at the house, but I can sense that lights turned on. The parents came downstairs, checked on the son, because I knew it was I'll get to how my senses were just so on point, but I sensed a mom and dad coming from upstairs, turning on the lights, flicking the lights, and coming. I could hear it all. And the son is just in awe and shock, like as if the car is through the house or something tragic happened. Um, but the car didn't get through the house. It hit the corner of the foundation of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big crack along the bottom of the house, about 6 to 12 feet long. Um, and they come outside, and they're just dawning upon me. And that's when this was confusing, because I didn't know. And the story was, when this first happened, is my spirit, or is it an angel dragging my body from the driver's seat to the passenger's side? Or did the family do that?
Hmm.
I don't know if they were ballsy enough to do that. I don't know what they noticed. They noticed me moving. I couldn't breathe. Somewhat blood is being lost. They probably felt like, let's reposition him. But that's what I felt. And for a while, for a long time, it dawned on me, and I felt a connection. I'm like, what was that? Who was that? And my belief was it must have been an angel. But it could have been. It could have been. I'm not going to sit here and do that. It could have been the family. Could have just felt like, let's pull him some more. Let's pull him out. That doesn't look good. Maybe they did that. And when the police came and found me, so nobody knows. No, honestly, nobody knows the answer. I always wanted to go and find that family and ask them, knock on the door and all that. But they found my body hanging over the battery, the hood of the car on the right side, on the passenger side. My shirt ripped off, drenched in blood, and the battery hanging off, the wires hanging down, dripping blood. And that's how they found me, and that's how the pictures were taken.
Okay.
Uh, so, so my awareness then, felt that, and I was just waiting. I felt like I was just waiting. I was still I was still waiting. I was still in my body just waiting, and then I hear the ambulance come. And that's when the ambulance came, and it was almost as if my spirit stayed with me to prepare me for readiness, to just stay content with me until the ambulance came. As soon as the ambulance came and they started to, um, they were everyone was shocked. They didn't know what to, obviously when you see somebody like that, it's something you don't want to see. Um, I had glass. I'll get to that when we talk about the hospital. But um, they grabbed me. They put me on the gurney gently. I don't know. I didn't see how they did that. I was kind of just glad that they came. And then when they put me in the ambulance and they started to use the breathing to get me to start breathing and the tubes, and all I heard them say as they were driving, when they were trying to, that's when they started to revive me or check on me and panic, and they're driving all the way to the hospital, and I can feel that happening, and I sensed it happen. And that's when I remember myself looking and observing. But at first, it was more of a sense of observing. It wasn't a physical separation of my body in the beginning. So while I was in the ambulance, I sensed them saying, we're losing him. He's losing too much blood. I'm trying. Come on, hurry. Let's go. Do we have to use the I don't know what it's called, defibrillator or whatnot? And I don't know if they had to use that. I didn't dig deep into the reports or ask for it. I got my x-rays and the pictures of the vehicle with the shirt and all that, but nothing of me, no pictures of me in the hospital, dragging me in the gurney. But I do remember that, and as we're driving closer to the hospital, that's when my spirit left my body. That's when my spirit left my body, before we got to the hospital. And at that point, I was able to play with it. I was able to consciously float above my body, above the ambulance, and be connected. So I wasn't going far or going anywhere. I was with the ambulance, and I was with myself, but I was hovering over my body, and I can see everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, and when we get to the hospital, I'm still over my body, but I'm a I'm a spirit, and I started to notice that my body was translucent, and I started to become aware of, oh my God, that's what I look like. That's what happened to me. And I was almost prepared to see everybody. It was like a show for me. It was like I was waiting to see what's going to happen. So I was still so connected to my body.
So when you said that you could see your spirit body, what do you mean you could see your spirit body? Did you look like a ghost? Where, I mean, what did that look like to you?
What it looks like is a full formed body soul. Energy. It's a full formed energy body, and it's translucent. You're
So you had fingers, you had arms, you had legs, from what you could tell, or were you
Yeah,
like
but
a?
it's not like I was going like fiddling with my fingers and moving my fingers or my toes. It was more like just a spirit connection. I didn't stand upright and walk. I was always floating. I was always floating wherever I wanted to go, like a signal. Like if I sensed something, it's like I don't know if my spirit can go there, because when I would sense a phone call, it was like I was connected in the telephone wires, and I can hear the dialing. I can hear the contemplation of someone on the phone, and then the signal being sent, and then how long it takes for the signal to go and reach to the next person before the next person gets the phone call, and who picked up the phone. Like my uncle, for example, got the phone call as they were driving to California. They had to turn back around and come to Alberta. So he just right away, he looked back. So when he got the phone call, he heard everything. He just kind of put the car in gear, turned back to the family and said, "We got to go. Malcolm is on life support." And they were just like, some felt bummed. You know, if you're going on a vacation, you know, you're shocked, but I can understand the feeling of the, you know, not, I
The
don't want to be,
disappointment, the disappointment
I
of,
don't want to
of not
be,
being able to go where you're heading to.
I don't want to be rude and let them down like that, but I'm just saying that uh, that's kind of the feeling. It was a mixed feelings of emotions because I was not close with my family, but my uncles and aunties loved me. My cousins, we when cousins detach, you lose the love, you know, you lose that connection, so it wasn't so strong, so that kind of feeling was there. I sensed it. But my uncle right away, I felt what he did. It's like, okay, he had to make that decision and he came back for me. And then, you know, I can hear phone calls and I would come back and be like, okay, well, he's on the way. Okay, what's next? What's happening? What's going on? Let's go in the hallway. Let's, you know, float over here. And I can float along the hallway and I can see how many people are sitting in the waiting room. I can go into other private rooms and see people eating their food, and I'm just observing everyone's prayers, and I can hear whispers and prayers and people coming and looking on me, looking down and being like like shocked. Like the first instant when people see me, it was more of a shock, and then once they understood, okay, I'm here, I'm dead, I'm in the hospital, they're waiting, I'm gonna be on life support. They're waiting. They didn't know I wasn't on life support yet because they didn't. And then they took me in the room, and then they you know, they took me in for surgeries. Sorry, first. So they didn't have me on life support yet at that minute. I was going in for surgeries back and forth. So 3 or 4 times I was taken for different X-rays, and they were checking for different parameters and different types of you know, blood vessels and nerve damage and muscle tears, and they had to you know, do the surgery on my leg, and they had to, you know, take out glass and shards of glass. Like I felt chunks, and I would be able to go in and out of my body too. So as I was going into surgery, I would just connect back to my body, but I was blacked out. I wasn't watching the surgery. So my spirit did go back into the body when it had to. It's like it knew. I don't know what it means. It's like it knew. Now I'm recalling this. It knew, like, because I didn't watch my surgeries. It's like my spirit knew to go in the body and just to be present, so then you can get the surgery done successfully and then you can get back out. And that's what it was doing to me. So, and then I came back out, and then I would see them pushing me back, and I was hovering again and back in and out, you know? So I was in and out connected, and I was able to do that. I was able to consciously disengage and then engage with my body and my mind. I don't know if, you know, they didn't even know if I was a vegetable. I didn't even know. My consciousness was taking over. So I don't know if my brain was functioning, and because I was done.
Right.
And
I've got an audience question that I want to go back to before we go too much further.
yes.
The question was, more aligned with what it was that you visualized or felt that you looked like when you were that soul body. Okay. So let's just go back to that soul body for a minute.
Sure.
You said that you were able to, and this was one of their questions, that you were actually able to move around and it was a floating situation. In their question, they're referencing a movie here. Okay, they're referencing some kind of Halloween movie. It's getting close to being Halloween, so maybe that's why we've got the question. But they're like, could you see yourself as a ghost? You know, and so in this, it's I'm not sure what the movie is, but they're referencing a movie, and apparently in that movie, ghosts were floating around the house, and it was basically the person, but they would be, whited out and being translucent, looking like a
Yes.
ghost. Is that what you meant by energy body? Okay,
Yes.
okay, great. Thank you for answering that. And then, so you weren't walking; you were literally floating around. So you would float in and out of your body,
Yes.
but at first, you're saying you didn't have control of that. You were just in
It was
it and
happening.
going with it.
I was unknown and it was happening, and I had to understand that that was me.
Mm.
It was like I was aware. It's like right now, I'm consciously aware that I'm me and that I have a spiritual soul. But to understand that it is fully me, that's me. That I could actually take control of that was new to me in the beginning until I started to recognize all the thoughts and energies and feelings, and I can hear thoughts and I can hear the prayers. People not saying it out loud, but they're praying, and I can hear word for word. Because when I got off of life support, I told those people word for word that I know. When they came after and saw me when I was alive, recovering in the recovery, they would come and visit me, and they said, "Yeah, I prayed for." I said, "I know." And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I know exactly what you said, word for word. You told me this. You told me to think about your mom. Your mom
Oh
sending you
wow!
this." Yeah, and she was shocked. And every time I did that, they didn't have feedback. It was like nobody was having a conversation with me and saying, "Oh, really? And what else did you hear? And what else did you say?" They were just stone cold, like in like not disbelief, but in like a knowing and a trust and a shock. And it was no refuting it. It was
Right.
irrefutable evidence. Um, and I did it to my mom, I did it to my sister, I did it to everybody. I even did it to my dad without telling him. I told everybody else what he was thinking. My own father did not come into my hospital bed. He didn't even had the nerve to come in. And it was for a reason. I feel he knew and I knew that if he were to come in I would have had a panic attack and died. And my body, my spirit knew it. I still had hatred in my heart for him.
Mm.
I had resentment in my heart for him, and I had this feeling that I can come back in the body and the spirit can give me this ailment, that chest, that pain, that like feeling. You know, the feeling we get overwhelmed and we want to take control of our emotions and anger and frustration. We can't let it go and dissipate it. We don't, people have a hard time doing that. So he did not come in. He did not come in. He did not come and do that. I think it was he had a knowing. Maybe I feel that he understands because of ancient culture. He's a Hinduism. They understand about life after death and the process of the days of the 7 day prayer, and the because it takes time for the soul to finally leave this realm. The soul doesn't leave this realm right away. So in Hinduism, in ancient cultures, they understand the different rituals they have to put the culture through for the process to be holistic, right? So because I've been through that growing up as a kid, they had to take me, and I've witnessed, my grandfather when he died. I was there for that whole ritual, like spending time eating only vegetables and fasting and staying at the house, and certain different um, um, what do you call it, rituals, right, or habits
Mhm.
that they do. But okay, so that being said, I was really in tune with it at that point, and then I started to make a an awareness of, okay, now what? Now what do I do? What should I do? Should I go in the body and just lay there and die, or should I keep floating around and visit Jamaica, or go to, I'm just saying that
Right,
now.
right.
Like, like, what should I do? Where should I go? Like, so a doctor came in and out and started talking, and everyone started going back and forth, in and out, because they were losing their patient. They didn't know. They said, is he going to be okay? Is he dead? Like, is he going to come back? And every nurse and doctor said, I don't know. Nobody knew. They said he's not responding. And right when that first or second doctor, I think it was the second time, after so many different people went back for getting information from the front desk, they can give information. Then my mom started crying, and they started to panic, and aunties and sisters started to group up and cry and console each other. And then my spirit went back in my body. They had to close, the curtains were opened or closed, but I felt dehydrated. My spirit knew it. So I went back in my body, and I started feeling dehydrated for water. I had no moisture left in my body. And in my spirit, I had a neck brace on. So I was braced up like this or something, and I felt like I couldn't swallow and I couldn't breathe. But I was on a breathing mechanism, but my soul knew that the positioning they had me in would have killed me. So what my soul did was it got my body to remove and function, even though when I woke up off life support, I couldn't squeeze, I couldn't move anything. I was crushed like bricks, and the pain was excruciating. But I do remember taking off my own neck brace. When I did that and I took it off and I released it, and I laid back and my spirit came out, it was like cool. I was playing with myself. My mom saw that. She freaked. She screamed, like hurled, and and the doctor came in, took her out, and uh, they started panicking. They didn't know what to do, and then they settled down, calmed down, because I was still connected to the breathing and all that. And I guess by that time, because no more surgeries were being done, so within that time I was plugged in, right? I was plugged in to to all the breathing apparatus, and probably blood flow, and I had the catheter, and I had tubes down me, I don't know where. Um, and when I went, when I left, and I saw the doctor calmed her down, says, okay, and the nurses started talking and whispering and saying, oh my God. And they said, that's a good sign. Don't worry. Maybe he's showing signs. So she's like, oh, she must have like, been like, oh. And so what happened was, they closed it and they said, okay, it's about time to have a conversation with the parents and the family, or what they want to do. So it became that time finally, right? Everyone's questions got answered, right? Like, okay, they're gonna get the word now. I don't know how many hours later, but it must have been like 10, 12 hours later. Half of the people left, and a group of closer families and whatever that could have stayed had to stay, and the rest had to leave. Maybe at that point in 2010, I think some sister families were allowed to stay. Like if you're a close sister and you had a kid or two, they could stay in their own private waiting rooms and stuff. Back in those days, they were allowed to do that, but now it's like one family, right?
Right.
But so the doctors came and said, okay, you're gonna have to make a decision. And when they were faced with that decision, I don't know. I know my mom had to do it. She wanted to do it. I don't know, but I think my dad said, "You decide," or I'm not deciding. You decide on that. What you got to do, or maybe they had a mutual agreement. But at that point, I was getting prepared for something because I was less and less engaged with leaving my body and floating and watching. I was less interested. My soul, when I say I'm talking about my spirit. I was less interested to pay attention. And I came back. I mean, I was in my body, but I was listening. So I was in my body, but I was listening. I was aware. My spirit was aware. Not my ears. I wasn't listening from my ears. I was listening from my consciousness. And so she made a decision, and she had to make a decision. She's like, okay. She was apprehensive because she wasn't sure. Because she asked, like, if I plug him, what if he doesn't breathe? What if he doesn't come back? They said that could be a chance of him being here for months. There could be a chance. We don't know if he's going to be a vegetable. We don't know how much blood he lost. What's going to happen? I'm just telling you that's what the information was, what they gave her. We don't know. But you have to decide. So they made her decide because of that one act that I did. Oh, I apologize. When I was thirsty and I took off my neck brace and everyone calmed down, and before she had to make a decision, in between that time when they were contemplating, she kept coming to peek on me and see on me, and she noticed, and I knew she was there. And I knew my mom was there because she's like, I'm here, son, I'm here with you. I'm right here. Anything you need, I'm right here. She was saying all those words, and I went like this. And I couldn't talk, but my spirit was saying, water, give me some water. I want some water. Can you tell the nurses to give me some water? And she sensed that, and common sense. She goes and she's like, he needs water. Give me water. We can't, ma'am. We can't give him water. We're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. We can't. She said, you have to. My son needs water. You have to give him water. And she was getting mad. They were getting reluctant. And another nurse came and said, just give her ice chips. So they gave her a cup of ice chips and a spoon. And she just started feeding me ice chips on my lips. Like how the Hindus give their idols like water and milk and all that. So she was like giving me water, and I couldn't suck it or lick it or nothing, but she was putting it in my mouth. And I remember that. And I told her, and she's like, I did that? I'm like, I'm the one that told you. It was like funny, right? Mm-hmm. But so I needed that. And it hydrated me, and I felt like that feeling you're about to die dehydrated. You probably don't know that feeling. You don't ever want to know that feeling, but I know it, and people on the desert about to die or something, they get those feelings. That's that feeling. And I felt revitalized just by a little bit of hydration. And I could finally breathe again probably, but I wasn't breathing yet on my own. So but I could accept the airflow, because if you can't accept the airflow, you're not really breathing, right? So your body has to be capable enough to accept the airflow. It doesn't matter. You can't give a dead guy air. You know what I mean? So my spirit was still able to come in and out. So there must have been something working, right? So that's why they said, okay, decide. So she comes in after, and she's contemplating. It's a plug, right? It's on the wall. And I don't know if she's saying a prayer before she unplugs it, but she has goodwill and she unplugs it. It started beeping, the monitors, and she's like, "What's going on? What's that?" It's normal. It's just the monitors and heart rate stuff are starting to work now, and there's not heart rate, but the other monitor. There's different levels and stuff. Because okay, when that happened, right when she was about to plug me out, plug my body out. Right when she was unplugging, that's when I knew. That's the moment when my spirit knew. That's when I knew. I had to decide. I had to make a decision. My spirit knew something that my body and these people don't know.
Do you think, I don't mean to cut you off in your stream, but do you think that your soul, you listen, before you said you were listening from consciousness. Do you think that your soul was trying to keep your body going? Was your soul in control of your physical being at that point in time? Is that what you were feeling?
Yeah, that's what was happening.
Hmm.
Keeping me consciously aware, alive. We need consciousness to be alive. So that's why I went back in my body. I went back in my body when I had to go for surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
and when my spirit knew that happened successfully, he's okay. He didn't lose too much blood. He's fine. Then I was able to be close. I didn't go too far, but I was able to go in and out of my body. But I was able to leave and listen and float around and find out who's asking what, who's thinking what. I was so engaged and in tune with what people were thinking. And I'll get to it after, so it makes more sense to the listeners, so they don't think it was just maybe my body or my ears hearing everything. And I'll give more proof of it when I talk about me being physical, having dinner with people, and I can hear their thoughts and feelings and sounds and frequencies and energies. And then I would say it to them, to their face, and they would be stone cold shocked. They wouldn't rebuttal or give feedback because they knew I was speaking the truth, and they would just go silent because I can hear their consciousness.
So let's go back to your mom.
Yes.
You're telling me that she unplugged you from the wall.
Yes, but before unplugging me,
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, there's no existence of time. There's no existence of time in the spiritual realm, because what seems like a few seconds can take any amount of time on another realm. It doesn't apply here, because when I share the story right now in a second about me leaving, to the most common people, they'll be like, "Oh, so you were just within 3 seconds or a minute you came back to your body?" No, it might seem like that, but in actuality, I could have been up there for a long time because it doesn't apply to the physical world. Okay, so it doesn't give any meaning to, it doesn't defy, oh, yeah, it doesn't dismiss the conversation that I'm about to say that I had to have when my spirit left. When my spirit had to make a decision, it was like, okay, now I'm ready. And my spirit started to get this awareness and decide. When it got unplugged, it was like, okay, now I started to enter black. Okay, so everything went black. Sorry, at the same time that I'm articulating this, I'm reliving it. So when I close my eyes or when I think, my hands are actually up down here. You can't see it on camera, but I'm trying to relive it. So I'm doing it went black. So everything went black, and then from the black, my awareness started to go somewhere. And it started to get dragged and floating somewhere. And I started to leave. And I started to see that I was leaving the hospital and go above the hospital. And I started to see with my consciousness the outside of the hospital, above the hospital, the sky. But my body was still there. And I was leaving somewhere. I was going. And I didn't know where I was going. And I didn't resist. And my soul was confused at that time, but it was not confused. It kind of had an awareness, an understanding, and a meaningful event. But I was still contemplating because I was still so attached to the physical world. So I'm like, do I move around? Do I resist? Do I float back and go see like what's going on in the hospital? Do I take control or do I just go with this flow? When we say the flow of the universe, okay, so when I start, so I'm like, I surrendered, but I was, what's the word? I was wondering. I was in wonder. I was in wonder. I wasn't resisting. I wasn't asking what or why or how. I was just wondering without challenging, without challenging what was happening. I was wondering like, but being in least resistance. Because I knew it was like a connection, a sense that connection was connected to me, and it was another awareness. Go ahead.
So I thank you for sensing I had a question there. That's what and you started answering it. I was trying to figure out when you were rising up out of the hospital and you were contemplating, you were absorbing what was going on. Did you have that sense as Malcolm, or did you have that sense as what you're describing as your soul?
Malcolm was long gone and dead. I'm not Malcolm.
So
I'm
you were
not
your
Malcolm.
soul at that point in time. You
Yeah.
knew there was a difference.
I'm not my name. I'm not. I don't resonate with Malcolm.
Right.
I'm so I wasn't connected to the body. It was just a vessel. It was just there, and I knew at that point. wow, so me, what I really am is this is what I feel, think, hear, my everything, my existence. That's what it is. But then that's my body. That's what I look like down there. No, but the same feelings and the looks and your appearance. It's almost like our actuality comes into place only when our spirit is in the body. Otherwise, it's like, what is real? If you are, your spirit is what's real, what was real is just a dummy.
Hmm.
And that's what I started to realize. Okay, so I surrendered into this hold on me, this absorption, this flow. And the flow was taking me up. And it was just like a magnet, like a slow magnet connection. And it was going slow at first. And when I completely understood what's about to happen and where I'm going, that's when I just took off. And I got sucked into this vortex, but in front of me was black. And it started to go faster because I started to have a belief of, I know where I'm going. And it was the same wonder feeling because the black was in front of me. And I'm like, is this a tunnel? Is this a funnel? Is this a vortex? There's black pitch, the blackest black in front of me. And I'm like, okay, now that's not the earth. So if I go in that, what does that mean? Do I die? Like, am I done if I go there? Or do I go back and then I can enter the realm? Or am I disconnected from the realm now? Do I go to that black and do I come back to earth and I'll see the sky and all that? But I didn't want to think that much about that. But I'm just articulating this so people understand. So what happened was I knew there was white, beautiful light behind me, but there was this vortex was just like a vortex of white and like cloudy, and I just beautiful, mystically glowy suction I was going through. And then I kept going faster and faster and faster, and I was just traveling. I was just traveling, and then I come to a halt. And when I come to a halt, the black was long gone and it all became white. And then I was standing upright. And I observe what's around me, and I observe what's going on. And this is what was so beautiful. The feeling that I felt and I sensed was not related to how I felt about my body. It was no judgment. There was no ego. It was almost surrender. It was almost like not bowing down, but bowing down and surrender and love and compassion and respect and honor. That's what I felt. And I recognized at that point there was no ego, pride. I was welcomed into that. But I didn't go inside and step inside. I was contemplating. My spirit knew, okay, don't just welcome yourself. Don't. I just waited, and what I saw around me, in front of me, my in the near distance, were these beings, angelic, translucent, more white, more solid, and more angelic, and more content, and more honorable, more surrender, more of everything, more love, more beauty, more repent, just bowing down, just present, a presence. That's the sense of each of them that were there. I think there was like 8, 9, 12, or I think that's how many were there, or more, because my awareness was focused right there. I just didn't want to lose engagement with why I was there and start to observe the spiritual world and do all that. I didn't want to cross the boundaries of whatever, because my ego had to go at that point. I didn't want to take control anymore and do what we try to do with our consciousness. So I just stayed present, and I heard a voice speak up. And this voice was the most angelic, beautiful, divine, but deep and heavy. Not intimidating, but you know that that's the voice. But you feel com- com- compelled, but complying to. I felt this feeling like not scared or nervous. We relate it to scared or nervous, but like anticipation. It was like that feeling, like, I don't want to say challenged, but that's how we feel here, like challenged, right? But it was
Mm-hmm.
like this other voice, like, that I can surrender to and be open and honest and truthful to, repent to, not be worried about, but it was an authority. Without having to prove or display, it was authority, it was authority. It was massive, 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 100 times bigger than what I saw back there. And it was just more of the head. Same presence, bowing down, but, and then lifts his head and says, and it was more not a words, more of a feeling. What do you want to do? What's, because my feeling was, what am I going to do? What do I do now? And it was reciprocating, what do you want to do? And my hands on my chest.
It brings back, when you recall this, it brings back a very deep, sincere love, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's my, that's our belonging. That's my belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's my father. That's my answer to all. Um, I don't need to answer here to anybody here. Th- That's the respect that I had.
Do you think it's fair when we talk about, when we use the words God, the Creator, um, the other types of words that theologies have tried to use to describe, a one mononistic, figure.
That's what I felt.
That's what you felt?
That's what I felt, but everyone has a different experience, and there's analogies to give for every experience based on the perceptions they've lived and the paradigms that they have encountered. Some people have different experiences based on their reality. But what I've seen, what I know for my knowing, and what I connected with is exactly my connection and what I know and what I trust. And I don't tell anybody and feel that they need to know it or feel it or think it like cultures and religions do. I don't I know it's me, and I know that's them. And that's them, that's their I ams, and this is my life and my spiritual journey. And some people might have other angels to recognize with, reconcile with. Some people might have other realms. There these questions are unanswered. I don't have the answers for, you know, taking DMT and then going to astral project to different realms. And oh, I went to this realm and that realm and I saw colors and things in here, and that's what my image is. That's what God is there, and I know it. Everyone is entitled to their personal opinion to stick to themselves. I am stating my facts and my reality. Everyone else's reality is not everyone else is equal, but we're all connected through source because we're all here from source. I went back to source, and that was source, and source was still around. It wasn't like I entered in this angel or this being. I didn't go inside of him. I was around an area, and there must be other areas. They were obviously on, it was all white, so they were there, right? So that, just knowing that there can be, they were just stationary at that moment in time, but they're not just, the angels aren't just standing in one spot for eternity, like common
Right.
sense, right? So,
Right.
so, and then that's when I reflected my life before myself, before my awareness. I don't want to use eyes anymore because I didn't. My eyes was my third eye, my awareness, and every mistake, everything I could have done, should have done, or would have done, those woulds, every analogy of what I would have done, every analogy of what I would have done crossed my eyes, my vision. Everything if I should have done, I contemplated on. And everything I could have done, and when I say everything, I'm talking my thoughts, the way I think, when my spirit comes back to the body. I'm in control of that. I'm talking about the abuse. I'm talking about the way I treat people, the way I think of people, the way I look at people, the way I abuse, the way I was abused, the way I look at people doing things now had to change. Because what about me and the things I've done on this planet? How can I look at another soul and judge the body that's doing what they're doing? It's a pity, it's a shame, but things about everything had to change. The judging, the not doing. When I say everything had to change that I reflected on, I can't emphasize it enough. You have to contemplate what that means to you, man. And some people can't even articulate, they don't articulate it until that happens to them. They don't, what you're living now, you can't even articulate or fathom until that experience. So I have to tell you, I have to, you have to go into your spirit. Your spirit has to connect. You have to have that spiritual connection for your, listen to those whispers. You have to. It's one thing to be the noticer of what you notice, but what are you going to do with it? Makes the
Mm,
difference.
right, right.
So I came out of that and made a decision to understand what I should have lived and what I outlived and what I needed to redo, rectify, complete, what I had to finish or get done, or just do-overs and fixers or changers, reflections of myself and reality and the way governments and science, society and everything, life, everything in life has to be done differently, you know?
Hmm. So let me kind of just keep you back before you go too far here, because there's some questions from the audience that you're addressing. Um, so you're seeing these pictures and you're realizing, realizing things that maybe you should have been doing differently. Um, was it you that were realizing these things, or was it, was there, angels or other souls that are around you that were interacting with you at the time? And I think what the question is really asking is, what was judgment right like? And I don't know if that's the appropriate question to ask right now or not. What was that? Was that self? I mean, was that your soul that was doing the judgment, or was that coming from something that was external to your soul?
That's a good question. I have help, and it wasn't all my doing. Consciousness was connected to me and gave me reflections of the things that I needed to reflect on. It was ultra connected. At the same time, synchronized together. So the awareness, when I looked up at, it's like, like we know, do you know? Do you notice? Do you recognize? Yes, I recognize. And they were like, yes, I recognize that you recognize, and that you recognize that we recognize. It was like a, like,
A deep understanding. Would that be a good way to put it, maybe?
yes, and synchronicity in thought, mind, body, spiritual, a spiritualness in that connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I say mind, body, I mean my spirit has a form, but it's physical. It's not physical, but it's also not formless. It had a form,
What'd that form look like?
like a being, like a being, like the form of me, stepping out of me, being translucent.
So it was different than from the energy body that you were describing earlier when you were going through the hospital
No,
situation. No, it was
no,
the
same.
same
But I was,
energetic body.
yeah, but I was just floating before, where this is the first time I was upright.
Okay, so you were there.
Yeah.
You felt the sense that you were in place.
Yes, I didn't feel a floor. I just mean I was presenting myself, or I was there upright, not
Mhm.
floating around and being whatever. I was there to present myself.
Mm.
And I don't believe I was being judged. I wasn't being critiqued either, because I had a personal choice. I had a freedom of choice. I could have gone back and been like, no, whatever, I'm not going to do this. I was aware. Or I could, because I could have had all the messages and be like, okay, yeah, but, I could have still not. A lot of people, they don't have to change. They don't change. And they go up, and, your spirit is different than your body and the decisions and choices you have to make. I just took it upon myself that I recognized the wrongdoing I was doing,
Mm.
and that the things that needed to be changed had to be changed in order for life itself to change. That was my messaging, and I said, I'm going to change. Are you sure? And I said, yes. Are you ready? And I said, I'm ready. And I started back into where I came from. And I backed into it, and I started to go back into it all the way, slowly and then fast. And came through. And I came through, appeared into the sky, or like way up, and I see the whole atmosphere come into below the clouds and everything, and I see. I don't want to say it like clouds and stuff. I'm saying clouds so people can articulate it, but some people might be like, "Oh, so you go through clouds now?" No, it was like, that's just an analogy to say like how I seen everything. Like I came, I seen. What do you call the atmosphere? Like what do you call that non-touchable thing? Right? Like I seen it. Right? So I come and I see all that, and then I come and I see the earth, and then I see the hospital as I'm coming down, and it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and I go down to above the hospital ceiling, go through it, and I go to my body, and I go above it, and I enter my body, and my awareness clicked in, and that's when my mom unplugged me.
So hold that thought. We got a an audience question that I think you just answered. So what you came so the vortex that you were describing before when you were ascending, that was the same vortex you came back through when you were descending, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Keep going.
And in that moment, and then she goes and sits down, and they're twiddling their fingers, contemplating, worrying, wondering what's going to go on. But she's just her and my sister, my younger sister, and they're just sitting down from my awareness, and the curtains are wide open. And then all of a sudden, I go upright. My body comes upright. And you know what the first thing I do is? Well, I notice them like being shocked and surprised and excited and nervous and everything all at the same time. But you know what my first expression was?
Hmm.
You know what it wasn't? It wasn't, hi, hey, how's it going? Wow, I'm back, and you want to know my story? You want to know my experience? You know what you want to know what happened? Oh my God, I love you. It wasn't. That's what it wasn't. You know what it was? What happened to my leg? What the fuck? My leg is swollen. Yeah. That was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I can't move my leg. I feel all the pain, and I was negative. I was very negative.
Dude, so let me I got a question here because that's very interesting to me. You're in
Peace and joy and
you're in
awe.
peace and joy and awe in the whiteness. You're coming back through the tunnel. You're awestruck, I guess, by what it is that you're sensing, what it is that you're seeing. And then the very moment that your soul reconnects to your body, you had forgotten all of that and you were just focused on your physical condition. It was that plighting, just the click and
I didn't
boom.
realize at that time the amount of work to put in. You don't just get connected and stay bliss and joy and awe and love because you're a spiritual being. No, it doesn't work that way. Um, I endured the pain. My arms were down, so my body just came up, right? And my leg was swollen like this, like this. And I couldn't move it. I couldn't. And the first thing my mom says is like, "Can't you be grateful you're alive?" And she started to resonate with the same person, the same body. She didn't have the love. I pushed the love away from so many people in my life that it's crazy when I start to tell you and unbelievable how I did that. I had this unknowingness still after my car accident. I still had to experience life and go through all of the years and years of study and trauma and turmoil and pain and suffering, which we'll get to. But what I want to tell you is I was pushing the love away unknowingly. I was just being not recognizing the gratitude and the love and the graciousness that comes through the experience of changing your life. In that moment, I wasn't changed. My spirit only recognized because my spirit was always there. Your spirit is there. It's always there. But what are you doing?
Wow, I don't know about you, but episode 1 was really exciting. Stay tuned for episode 2 so we can discover what Malcolm discovered and why he discovered it. See, Malcolm knows the secret. He knows the secret to manifesting the lives that we are intended to live and we are entitled to live. So until next time, take care of yourselves. My name is Kyle Griffiths with Guided Intelligence Productions. Take care.